Hey everybody, welcome back to CoronaChat. I'm Caitlin, and tonight is Friday, May 15th, and this week on CoronaChat we've been sharing some tips for staying safe as your community begins to reopen. So as we discussed on Monday, this is not because the coronavirus is gone, right? Rather, it's because we're all trying to figure out how to build some semblance of normal life as the pandemic continues. And each of us as individuals needs to be able to make good, smart, informed decisions to help limit the spread of the virus and keep ourselves and those around us safe. So one question we've been getting a lot recently is about when and how to start safely meeting up in person again with our loved ones, right? So we've been isolating at home for over 6 weeks now, and the strain is really starting to wear on us. We humans are fundamentally social beings, and even for introverts like me, this much time alone is really, really hard. We miss each other. And with so much uncertainty and fear, the last thing that we want is to be alone. Now, at the same time, the coronavirus threat is real and we don't want to put our loved ones at risk. So what do? So one of the things that we need to be able to have this conversation in a meaningful way, both here on CoronaChat and with each other out in the real world, right, is language that helps us understand and communicate about risk and about boundaries. Outside of CoronaChat, my work in public health is in sexual and reproductive health. And I say this because I think there are actually some useful parallels that we can learn from that field for how to talk about risk and boundaries. So content warning, I'm going to be talking about sex in this episode. So if that means you need to kind of tune out for now and connect back in later, go ahead and do that now. Okay, so the specific example I want to draw on is thinking about sexually transmitted infections. So when we think about risk and sexually transmitted infections, we think about it on a spectrum, right? So at one end of this spectrum is complete abstinence, right? If you never have any kind of sexual contact with anyone ever in your life, your risk of getting a sexually transmitted infection is 0. At the other end of the spectrum, if you have unprotected sexual contact with hundreds of people, right, your risk of getting a sexually transmitted infection is quite high. Not because you're accumulating virus and bacteria as you go, or because promiscuous people necessarily have more diseases, but because the more people you have sex with, the higher the chance is that you will eventually have sex with someone who has a sexually transmitted infection. So we can think of these two examples as two extremes on either end of our risk spectrum, right? And I picked these two examples specifically because I think that they are, kind of two extreme examples, right? There are lots of other behaviors that fall somewhere on this spectrum. Right? If I only have sex with one partner in my life, my risk is very low. Not 0, because my partner may not have made that same choice, right? But my risk of getting a sexually transmitted infection is very low. If I have sex with more than one person over the course of my life, but I use protection every single time, like a condom or a dental dam or PrEP, right? My risk is much lower than if I didn't use protection. And in general, my risk is higher the more partners I have, but there are things that I can do to minimize risk, things like using protection, making sure my partner and I both get tested first, all that good stuff, right? The key point here is that even if I can't live with the 0 risk scenario, right, I don't have to go straight to the high risk scenario, right? This is not an all or nothing choice. There are lots of points on this spectrum that I can choose from, right? Now, every individual is going to have a slightly different tolerance for risk. They're going to be able to they will be willing to accept different levels of risk on that risk spectrum, right? So where one person might be willing to have protected sex with someone even though they're not in an exclusive relationship, another person might think that same situation is too risky. So we have to know our own individual risk tolerance, but we also have to be comfortable expressing our boundaries and talking about what makes us feel safe and unsafe. I have to be able to say, I really love being with you, but I'm not comfortable having sex without a condom, right? That doesn't make me feel safe. And my partner needs to respect that boundary. So all of this is true for COVID too. We're not making a binary choice, right? I don't have to choose between staying in my house forever and never seeing anybody or resigning myself to, oh my gosh, I'm definitely going to get COVID-19 and die, right? I can make choices that help reduce my risk and protect other people around me. Things like limiting how many other people I interact with in person, or making sure that I respect social distancing, making sure that I wear a mask, right? These things will not ensure 100% that I will not get COVID, but they help to reduce the risk, right? And within that risk spectrum, I have to figure out personally what I am comfortable with and what I'm not, right? So I might personally feel like it's safe to get together with one friend outside in the park and keeping 6 feet apart with masks on, right? And my friend might feel like masks are unnecessary and want to invite 5 other friends. And they might feel like this is totally safe as long as all 7 of us keep 6 feet apart. Neither one of these 2 options is 0 risk. But neither one of them is 100% risk either. They fall somewhere on that risk spectrum, right? So this means my friend and I need to have a hard but honest conversation about boundaries. I have to be able to say to my friend, I love you and I love spending time with you and I want to see you. But doing that without a mask and with all of these other people makes me feel unsafe. I know you miss them and I miss them too, but I would prefer right now to just see each other one-on-one. So if you want to see all of them today, I'm going to sit this one out and hopefully, you and I can hang out some other time. Hopefully my friend will respect my boundary, right? And maybe they'll even say, you know what? This is important to you and you're important to me, and I want you to feel safe. Why don't you and I hang out today, just the 2 of us? I don't have a mask, but I'll wear a bandana over my nose and mouth if that makes you feel better. And I'll see the whole rest of the crew tomorrow. Right? So that's a best case scenario, right? It's also possible that my friend will get mad and tell me that I'm overreacting and that I'm a sheep and that I'm living in fear, right? Like, that's real. We're all handling this pandemic and the stress that it causes us differently. And sometimes it brings out a part of us that's not our best. It doesn't mean that we're bad people. But it also doesn't mean that you should be bullied into doing something that makes you feel unsafe. You are the person who is best able to determine what level of risk feels safe to you. You are the person who knows best the circumstances of your own life and what getting sick with coronavirus could mean for you. So trust your intuition. And if you find yourself in a situation where your boundaries are not being respected and you don't feel safe, remember that you are allowed to draw a line and remove yourself from the situation. You can say, you know what, this doesn't feel good to me, so I'm going to do what I need to do to feel safe. Hopefully we can find a better way to do this when we try next time. And if you're the friend being told, hey, this doesn't feel good to me, it's time to take a pause and listen, right? That's what we do when we care about people. So that's our show for tonight. Tomorrow night, we'll continue with more tips on how to adapt to our new normal. Tomorrow, Monday. Sorry, gosh, it's Friday, guys. Enjoy the weekend. These are strange times, but we're all in this together. I hope you can get a little bit of rest and relaxation this weekend, that you stay safe, that you take care of one another, and I'll see you all back here on Monday. Have a good night.